In tears, Diane Keaton had finally confessed about the love of her life before she passed. For decades, Diane Keaton built her legacy as Hollywood's ultimate independent spirit, the woman who dated some of America's most famous men, but proudly chose never to marry any of them. "I don't think that because I'm not married it's made my life any less," she famously told reporters. "That old maid myth is garbage." But in her final months before her passing on October 11, 2025, America's most beloved singleton finally revealed the truth that had shaped her entire adult life. The secret love that explained everything from her iconic fashion choices to her fiercely guarded independence. What makes this confession so extraordinary, revealed a former studio executive who knew Keaton for over 40 years, is that Diane had created this whole public persona around her chosen independence. Finding out there was actually one great love that defined everything. It forces us to re-examine her entire life through a completely different lens. Today, we're counting down the 10 most revealing moments from Diane Keaton's final confession about the love that shaped her life. The relationship she kept hidden in plain sight for over 5 decades and only fully acknowledged as her health began to fail. The revelation has stunned Hollywood and left fans reinterpreting every role, every interview, and every fashion choice of her remarkable career. But first, let's examine how this bombshell confession finally came to light in the most unexpected way during what was supposed to be a routine television appearance that turned into one of the most emotional moments in talk show history.
What would it mean to you to win an Academy Award?
Okay, I think it's a very different experience.
Number 10, the Barbara Walters moment. When Diane Keaton agreed to a final interview with Barbara Walters, who came out of retirement specifically for this conversation, viewers expected the standard career retrospective. What they got instead was the moment that would break the internet and rewrite Hollywood history. "I know you've spoken many times about choosing independence over marriage," Walters began in her characteristic direct style. "Any regrets about that choice as you look back?" What followed was 30 seconds of silence that felt like an eternity on live television. Keaton removed her signature glasses, wiped away unexpected tears, and finally whispered, "There was someone. There's always been someone." This wasn't just another Diane Keaton awkward moment, noted a television critic who analyzed the interview. This was the carefully constructed wall around her private life finally crumbling on camera. You could literally see 50 years of practiced deflection dissolving in real time. The revelation wasn't just that there had been a significant love in her life, it was that this relationship had been the defining force behind her public persona, her career choices, and the independence she had so famously championed. "I've spent my life talking about why I never married," Keaton continued, her voice strengthening. "But I've never really told anyone about the one person I would have married, the relationship that shaped everything that came after." This unexpected vulnerability from an actress known for her controlled public image instantly signaled that what would follow wasn't just another celebrity confession. It was the key to understanding one of Hollywood's most beloved and enigmatic stars.
That's true. But Harry, I haven't heard from you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Number 9. The secret Something's Gotta Give connection. The identity of Keaton's great love sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Jack Nicholson, her co-star in the 2003 romantic comedy Something's Gotta Give. While their on-screen chemistry had been undeniable, few suspected it was built upon decades of real-life history and unresolved feelings. "We met in the 70s, right after Annie Hall," Keaton revealed. "There was an immediate connection, but the timing was impossible. We were both building careers, both involved with other people. But there was always something there, an understanding, a recognition." What makes this revelation particularly stunning is how it transforms our understanding of Something's Gotta Give. The Nancy Meyers film, in which Keaton plays a playwright who falls for Nicholson's aging playboy, now appears to be a thinly veiled exploration of their actual relationship. "Watching that film now, knowing what we know, it's almost painfully obvious," observed a film critic who has studied both actors' careers. The scene where she cries after he leaves her? The raw emotion Keaton brings to that moment makes perfect sense if she was drawing on real feelings. Director Nancy Meyers has remained tight-lipped about whether she knew of the real-life connection when casting the pair, but industry insiders suggest she deliberately created a safe space for the former lovers to explore their complicated history through fiction. "That film wasn't just art imitating life," explained a production assistant who worked on the set. "It was art providing a safe framework for two people to express feelings they'd never fully resolved in real life. The film's ending, where Nicholson's character finally commits to Keaton's, takes on new poignancy, with the revelation that in reality, their timing never quite aligned for such a neat resolution. Number 8. The Parallel Lives Timeline. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Keaton's confession was her revelation of how her life had run on a parallel track with Nicholson's for over 5 decades, with their paths crossing at pivotal moments that shaped both their careers. "We were never in the same place emotionally at the same time," Keaton explained. "When I was ready, he wasn't. When he might have been, I was somewhere else. We kept missing our moment, if there ever could have been one." This timeline of near misses and brief connections helps explain both stars' romantic histories, Nicholson's string of relationships, and Keaton's famous romances with Warren Beatty, Woody Allen, and Al Pacino. "I think I was always looking for Jack in other men," Keaton admitted. "Woody had his brilliance, Warren had his charm, Al had his intensity, but none of them were Jack, and that was probably why none of those relationships ultimately worked." Film historians have now begun reconstructing the timeline of their relationship, noting how often their career choices seem to reflect or respond to each other's paths, from their parallel transitions to directing in the 1980s to their career revivals in the early 2000s. Once you start looking for it, you can see their invisible connection influencing 5 decades of Hollywood history, noted an entertainment journalist who has covered both stars extensively. "It's like discovering a hidden subplot that was playing out behind some of cinema's most famous moments." What makes this revelation particularly powerful is how it reframes Keaton's much-discussed independence, not as a rejection of commitment, but as loyalty to a connection that couldn't be contained within conventional boundaries.
The thing about me is I love accessories. Accessories make all the difference because you can have the same black dress over and over.
Number 7. The Annie Hall Fashion Connection. One of the most stunning revelations from Keaton's confession was that her iconic fashion sense, the menswear-inspired look that revolutionized women's fashion in the 1970s, was partially inspired by Nicholson's personal style during their early encounters. "The first time I saw Jack off set, he was wearing this amazing vintage vest over a white shirt with this beautiful tie," Keaton recalled. "It wasn't the typical macho style most actors were doing then. It was individual, quirky, confident. I borrowed a similar vest the next week, added a hat, and something clicked. I felt like myself in men's clothes." This fashion revelation rewrites one of cinema's most influential style moments. The Annie Hall look, which designer Ralph Lauren once credited with changing the direction of American fashion, wasn't just Keaton expressing her authentic self, it was also a subtle tribute to and connection with Nicholson. "Looking back at photos now, you can see the influence," confirmed a fashion historian who has studied Keaton's style evolution. "Early Jack had this precise, somewhat dandified quality to how he dressed. The same unexpected combination of masculine items worn with artistic flair that became Diane's signature." What makes this connection particularly meaningful is how it exemplifies the subtle ways their bond influenced each other's public personas without either ever explicitly acknowledging it. The fashion choice that came to define Keaton's image and independence was, ironically, born from the connection she kept hidden from public view. Number 6. The real reason behind her housing obsession. Keaton's well-documented passion for buying, renovating, and selling historic California homes, a side career that has been the subject of multiple books and magazine features, takes on new meaning in light of her confession about Nicholson. "Jack always loved Spanish architecture," Keaton revealed. "On one of our early encounters, we spent hours driving around looking at old Spanish colonial homes in Los Angeles. He had this dream about restoring one someday." As it turns out, the passion project that defined Keaton's life outside of acting, her dedication to architectural preservation and home restoration, began as a shared dream with Nicholson that she carried forward alone. "The houses became my way of keeping that connection alive," she explained. "Each one was a conversation we never got to finish, a life we never got to build together. I could create these beautiful spaces and think, Jack would have loved this tile work, or this is the kitchen we once talked about." This revelation casts Keaton's entire second career in a new light. What seemed like an independent passion was actually an ongoing dialogue with an absent partner, a way of maintaining connection through creation when circumstances kept them apart. "It's extraordinarily poignant," observed an architectural writer who who has covered Keaton's restoration projects, she was literally building these alternative lives, these beautiful spaces where their relationship might have flourished if things had been different. The homes that Keaton lovingly restored and then sold, never quite settling in one place permanently, now appear as physical manifestations of her emotional state, creating perfect spaces she couldn't fully inhabit, just as she had found a perfect love she couldn't fully realize.
You know, like right before the movie came out, the Wall Street Journal did a story and it said Granny Hall, ?
Number 5, the truth behind her decision not to marry. While Keaton had always publicly framed her decision not to marry as a choice for independence, her final confession revealed a more nuanced truth. She remained unmarried largely because the one man she would have married could never offer that kind of commitment. Jack and I had this conversation in the early 80s, Keaton revealed. We were both between projects, both briefly single. There was this moment when it could have gone a different way, but we both knew he wasn't built for monogamy, not then. Nicholson's well-documented aversion to traditional commitment, he once famously told a reporter, "I don't believe in marriage, but I absolutely believe in fidelity," for a short amount of time, created an impossible situation for their relationship. I decided that if I couldn't have that particular life with that particular person, I would rather build something completely different on my own terms, Keaton explained. Marriage to someone else would have felt like settling, like a compromise. I'd rather be authentically alone than inauthentically paired. This revelation transforms our understanding of Keaton's public stance on marriage. What appeared to be a feminist rejection of traditional roles was also a deeply personal response to loving someone whose lifestyle was incompatible with conventional partnership. The tragedy and the beauty of it is that they both recognized their incompatibility, noted a relationship expert who has studied famous Hollywood couples. Rather than diminish their connection by forcing it into a conventional box that would have destroyed it, they found other ways to honor what they meant to each other. This reframing of Keaton's independence not as rejection of attachment, but as honoring an impossible love, adds profound depth to what was already seen as a pioneering life choice for women of her generation.
You're a mom now, too. You have 2 kids, Dexter and Duke, right?
Right.
You adopted your first child when you were 50.
Number 4, the secret support during her adoption journey. One of the most touching revelations from Keaton's confession concerned her decision to adopt her daughter Dexter in 1996 and son Duke in 2001 as a single mother in her 50s, a choice that generated significant media attention at the time. Jack was the first person I called when I decided to adopt, Keaton revealed. Everyone else had opinions, concerns, questions. He just said, "You'll be an extraordinary mother. Those kids are hitting the lottery with you." According to Keaton, Nicholson provided crucial emotional support throughout her adoption process, despite their relationship existing in an undefined space between friendship and romance. He showed up the week I brought Dexter home, just appeared at my door with this ridiculous giant stuffed giraffe and a freezer full of homemade meals, Keaton recalled, with a tearful smile. No cameras, no publicity, just support when I was terrified and overwhelmed. This glimpse into Nicholson's private support for Keaton reveals a side of the notorious Hollywood bad boy rarely seen by the public, and explains why Keaton consistently defended him over the years when others criticized his lifestyle or reputation. "People always asked if I was worried about raising children without a father figure," Keaton noted. "The truth is, Jack was always there in the background, not as a replacement father, but as this steady presence who cared about us, who showed up when it mattered most." This aspect of their relationship speaks to the depth of their connection beyond romance, a friendship and mutual support system that sustained both through the different paths their lives took over decades.
That's so great. I mean, I love him so much.
Number 3, the Pacino connection explained. Keaton's long and much publicized relationship with Al Pacino in the late 1980s has always intrigued Hollywood historians, particularly given the intensity of their on-screen partnership in The Godfather trilogy. Her confession finally clarified the complex dynamics of that relationship and Nicholson's surprising role in it. "Al and I were real. That wasn't fake," Keaton insisted. "But there was always this unspoken thing where Al knew I had this history with Jack. They were friends, competitors, part of the same generation of actors. It created this strange triangle none of us ever directly addressed." According to Keaton, Pacino once confronted her after she called him Jack during an intimate moment, a slip that encapsulated the unresolved feelings still influencing her other relationships. Al said something I'll never forget. He said, "I'm not going to compete with a ghost, Diane." And he was right. There was always this invisible presence between us. This revelation adds new context to one of Hollywood's famous failed romances, and explains Pacino's cryptic comment in a 1990s interview where he described his relationship with Keaton as complicated by histories I couldn't touch. The saddest part, Keaton admitted, is that I think Al might have been the one I could have actually built a life with, but I couldn't fully give myself to that possibility because part of me was still tied to this unfinished business with Jack. The Pacino chapter of Keaton's romantic history now appears as a poignant might have been, a potentially lasting partnership undermined by the lingering emotional connection to Nicholson that she could never fully resolve.
American Film Institute honors Diane Keaton.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Number 2, the real meaning behind their final public appearance. When Keaton and Nicholson appeared together at the 2018 AFI Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony honoring their Something's Gotta Give, director Nancy Meyers, their warm interaction generated buzz about their enduring chemistry. What no one realized was that this appearance held profound private significance for both actors. That night was our goodbye, though I didn't know it then, Keaton revealed. Jack was already starting to decline cognitively. There were moments of absolute clarity mixed with confusion. We both knew it might be our last public moment together. This revelation casts new light on the somewhat bittersweet toast Keaton offered that night, in which she said, "Some connections defy explanation. Nancy gave us the gift of making one of those connections visible, if only on screen." Now we understand she wasn't just talking about the characters, noted an entertainment journalist who attended the event. She was acknowledging their real relationship publicly for the first time, in coded language that only they fully understood. According to those close to both stars, Nicholson's withdrawal from public life in recent years was partially due to cognitive decline, a deeply private struggle that both he and those who cared about him worked to keep out of the media. Jack made me promise years ago that if he ever started to lose himself, I wouldn't let him become a public spectacle, Keaton explained. That final appearance together was his gift to me. One last perfect moment before he retreated from the world's eyes. This understanding transforms what seemed like a routine industry event into something profoundly moving, a carefully orchestrated final chapter in their public story together, designed to preserve both the truth of their connection and Nicholson's dignity.
I like seeing. I think of everything in my life that's had such an effect that is priceless.
Number 1, the deathbed promise finally revealed. The most heart-wrenching moment of Keaton's confession came when she finally explained why she had chosen to break her decades-long silence in her final months, a decision triggered by a promise she made during her last private visit with Nicholson. "Jack made me promise that when we were both gone, I'd let the truth be known," Keaton revealed, her voice breaking. He said, "Tell them we were real, not just some Hollywood thing. Tell them it mattered." According to Keaton, this conversation took place during a private visit to Nicholson's home in early 2025, as both were facing mortality, she with her recent diagnosis, and he with his cognitive decline. "He had this moment of perfect clarity, like the Jack I'd always known was fully present again," she recounted. "He took my hand and said, 'We had something rare, something true. Don't let them reduce it to gossip after we're gone. Tell it your way first.'" This deathbed promise explains the timing of Keaton's sudden openness after decades of carefully guarded privacy, a final act of love and protection for a relationship that had shaped both their lives despite never fitting into conventional categories. "The greatest regret of my life isn't that Jack and I never married," Keaton concluded in her final interview. "It's that we never found the courage to fully acknowledge what we meant to each other while we were both still in our prime. We let fear and careers and timing rob us of years we could have had together." This final confession, that their love was real but constrained by circumstances both chosen and imposed, offers a profoundly human conclusion to what now appears to be one of Hollywood's greatest untold love stories. Diane Keaton's final confession transforms how we understand one of Hollywood's most beloved and independent spirits, the woman who famously declared, "I don't think that because I'm not married it's made my life any less," wasn't rejecting connection. She was honoring one too complex to fit within conventional boundaries. Her independence wasn't an absence of love, but a response to it, a creative adaptation to loving someone whose life could never align fully with hers. What makes this revelation so powerful is how it recontextualizes Keaton's entire public persona without diminishing it. Her fashion innovations, her architectural passion, her chosen single motherhood, all these defining aspects of her identity now appear not just as individual choices, but as creative responses to an enduring connection that could never be fully realized, yet never fully abandoned. The story of Keaton and Nicholson, two icons whose careers spanned Hollywood's most transformative decades, reflects something profound about love itself, how it can shape us even when unconsummated, how it can inspire us even when unfulfilled in conventional ways, how it can remain a defining force even when circumstances make traditional partnership impossible. Understanding this hidden dimension of Keaton's life doesn't diminish her legacy as a feminist icon who proved a woman could thrive personally and professionally without marriage. If anything, it adds depth to her journey, revealing that her independence wasn't simply a rejection of tradition, but a positive choice to honor an authentic connection on its own terms rather than diminish it by forcing it into conventional boxes. As we look back on Keaton's remarkable career, from her Oscar-winning turn in Annie Hall to her late career renaissance in films like Something's Gotta Give, we can now appreciate the hidden emotional current running beneath her performances. The nervous energy, the vulnerability beneath quirky charm, the profound authenticity that made her characters so relatable, all were informed by a real-life love story as complex and unconventional as the woman herself. In her final act, Diane Keaton gave us one last gift, the truth about a love that defied categorization, but defined her life. In doing so, she expanded our understanding not just of her own journey, but of the many forms authentic connection can take when we have the courage to define relationships on our own terms rather than society's. Diane Keaton's passing on October 11th, 2025, closed the final chapter on one of Hollywood's most unique and beloved personalities. But her last confession opened a new understanding of the complex, brilliant woman behind the iconic roles, distinctive fashion, and fiercely guarded independence. The revelation of her lifelong connection with Jack Nicholson doesn't diminish her legacy as a pioneering woman who charted her own course. It enriches it, adding emotional depth to choices that were already remarkable on their surface. Her story reminds us that the most authentic lives are often built not on rejection of connection, but on honoring it in whatever unconventional form it takes. As we remember Keaton's extraordinary contributions to film, fashion, and culture, we can now appreciate the hidden emotional current that informed her distinctive presence both on-screen and off. A love story that couldn't be contained within conventional boundaries, but nonetheless shaped two of cinema's most unforgettable careers. If you found this exploration of Diane Keaton's hidden truth moving, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos that reveal the untold stories behind Hollywood's most fascinating figures. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about this unexpected revelation and how it changes your perception of one of cinema's most beloved independent spirits. Thank you for joining us for this journey into one of Hollywood's greatest untold love stories. A reminder that the most powerful connections often defy easy categorization, but leave indelible marks on the lives they touch.